Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Chiseled. And why do we call it Chiseled? Because we're all a work in progress. I'm your host, I'm Rob Commodari. I'm also the author of Better Than You Think and co-authored a book inspired by Kyle Wilson, the 18-year business partner of Jim Rohn, who introduced me to our guest today, Kevin Eastman. Kevin, welcome to the show today.
Thanks, Rob. I'm looking forward to it. You never know where acquaintances and relationships send you. And with Kyle being a mutual relationship that we have, I'm glad I'm able to join.
Yeah, thank you so much. So just a little bit about Kevin Eastman here. He's an international speaker to corporate and sports teams. He talks to over 50 audiences a year. What he's known for, or maybe he might be under the scenes. I don't know, right, Kevin? He was the assistant coach for the NBA Boston Celtics championship team in 2008 and coached them again in the finals against the Lakers, I believe, in 2010. He also became the Los Angeles Clippers vice president of operations. He was assistant coach there. 3 NBA regular season winning records with the Clippers. He's worked with and or coached these NBA All-Stars: LeBron James, Kobe Bryant, Kevin Durant, Chris Paul, Blake Griffin, Paul Pierce, Kevin Garnett, Anthony Davis, and Ray Allen. He also was a consultant, or is still, you can correct me on that in a minute, Kevin, the consultant to Nike Basketball, working with Nike's elite college and high school players. He's a graduate of Richmond, and he's been in the Richmond Hall of Fame. Is that correct, Kevin?
Yeah.
Hall of Fame. And what we're here to talk about today is he's author of Amazon best-selling book, Why the Best Are the Best. 25 powerful words that impact, inspire, and define champions. Kevin, thank you again for being here today.
Yeah, my pleasure, Rob. You know, the first thing that hit me as you were talking about what you do and Chiseled is that tagline. Well, it's more than a tagline; it's a way of life. But we're all a work in progress, and I always think there's a second part to that we have to work to progress.
Ooh,
Right?
I love that.
We have to work on ourselves. We have to work on everything that goes into, whether it be our craft, our life, whatever that may be, because as we all know, success is not given; it's certainly earned. And when you have to earn something, you usually have to work for it to earn it. So as you were talking, that thought just popped into my head.
Well, thank you for sharing that. So early in your book, I want to hit this real quick because I want you to give the audience a little bit of context how this scrawny little kid from Jersey, or tall kid from Jersey, made it to the NBA as a coach of the championship Boston Celtics. How did you do that? Little context behind all that.
Yeah, I think a couple of things went into that. One was that I was willing to work at whatever it is that I chose to pursue. The second thing is whether I found basketball or basketball found me. I was out on a court and I loved being out there. And I even loved being by myself, working on my skills. And that's the one thing that I did enjoy about the game of basketball. It can be, in essence, it's a boy, a ball, and a dream, right? When you get those 3 parts together and you add not just the hard work, because I often say when I do speak is that in today's world, hard work is a given, right? So if hard work is a given, then what is the separator? And the separator is actually the unrequired work, right? I wasn't required to go out there in the snow and work on my shot or work on my left hand, which was my weaker hand. Those were things I did above and beyond probably the next person in my hometown or the next person in the hometowns of the league that we played in. So I had a curiosity about the game. I had a passion for the game. I enjoyed working hard, actually. It wasn't forced. I just enjoyed going out there. And I also enjoyed incremental improvement. I knew that there wasn't a basketball player pill that I could take and all of a sudden be a starter on my high school team. I enjoyed that incremental progress to get better. So those were kind of the rudiments, the foundation on why basketball and why I eventually got to the NBA. And then, of course, as you make each new step, you have to figure out that step how to make that step, number one. Then once you have accomplished and gotten on that particular step, what do you have to do to be the best you can be at that step? Because I do believe that if you take care of where you are, that's the best opportunity to get to where you want to go. So I just tried to work as hard as I could in whatever job I had on my way up. And I think I wanted people to see what I did more so than hear what I did. Because seeing is proof. Hearing is open to interpretation, right? Well, yeah, Rob told me about Kevin, but I'm not sure about Rob and his evaluation of what we really need here. Well, if that same person saw me work every day, I thought that was more powerful. So and you never know who's watching.
Right.
That's the big thing. You never know who's watching. So I always wanted to make sure that I did the best that I could where I was. And I think some of those things all of those things combined, and you can go deeper on it with specific questions, but all of those things combined allowed me to have this unbelievably fortunate life that I've had in sports. I've actually never had to really do a job, right? Like this thing where you walk into like this big, tall building and it has some offices in there and some desks and you work for this company. I've always worked in sports where we wore suits, but there was a word before it, sweat. We wore sweat, not coat and ties. We only wore coat and ties at 7:30, 8:30, or 9 p.m. when we were on TV.
There you go.
The game.
That's great. Yeah, thanks for sharing that. So this work ethic that you had, or you said you enjoyed working, did it come from, because I know a little bit of background about you growing up, you lost your mom at an early age, and then you had a commingled family of 10 of you, I think it was. And did you, was that tough growing up? And is that where that work ethic came from?
No, maybe some people who were on the outside looking in might have thought it was tough. But when you're going through it, it just is what it is. And you just I didn't know this at the time, but I probably was doing my best with the current situation, right? So even whether it be as a small child, we had to walk home from school because my dad was in Philly, across the river from South Jersey, working his job, the hours that he put in. So some people might think that's tough as a young kid having to walk, 4 miles or 5, whatever it was, to the apartment that we lived in. I just saw that as that's what you do, right? So I've always taken wherever I've been for just being there, and I just always found things to do, right? And when you're a family of 10, somebody gets left out. I don't care. Like I got left out at the dinner table because we had a picnic table. And if you can picture in your mind's eye, and your listeners can, I was on the, where my dad sat, I was to his left. Well, my dad started the food plate going around. Well, he's right-handed. So guess who always got stuck with beans and peas? Me. Because there was nothing left on the hamburger tray, the steak, whatever it was we were eating that day. Because by the time it got through 10 or 11 people and got to me, I really just got to eat everything that nobody else wanted to eat because that's all that was left, right? So I made the best of it. I enjoyed vegetables, right?
Well, so how did that make you feel though? Being, I mean, I understand the last, right? Where you were, but did it scar you? Did it trigger anything, or how did that make you feel?
No, I guess I lived this definition of what's all in the books in today's world with being present. I was just present, right? I could go outside and dribble and shoot. So I was able to have my passion part of my life every single day, rain, shine, or snow, right? Matter of fact, our mailman, Bucky, his name was, if I wasn't doing my dribbling drills at a certain time, going up and down the driveway because I was so anal about it, I guess. I didn't know I was, but he would say, "Where were you yesterday?" Right? I didn't see you doing your working on your left hand with your goggles on. Because I made these things where I had goggles and I taped the bottom of them so I couldn't see. So I had to practice, and then, every now and then we'd earn some money and I could buy some magazines that had stories about the really great players in the college and NBA level, professional level. So I would read those religiously to try and see if I could pull out anything that they did that I wasn't doing, because obviously if they did it, it probably helped them get to where they were. So that maybe started my curiosity, and eventually that was the foundation of the book. I always wanted to know, why are the best the best?
Yeah.
Why do some people get there and some don't? Why do people have all this talent, yet others don't have as much talent, but yet they get further in their careers? So that probably started back when I was reading the magazines, because we didn't have the internet and YouTubes and everything that we have available to us today. I might have been a great player had we had all that.
Yeah, but that wasn't.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. No, go ahead.
Instead, I was at the top of the mediocre list.
That's okay, but you did what you did and did very well at it. But no one coached you to pull those articles out. No one told you, "Hey, Kevin, go do this to be better." You did that on your own. Is that correct?
Yeah, you never know what sparks the fire, right? Because every fire needs a spark to start, right? So I remember watching an NBA game between the Celtics and the Phoenix Suns on TV, and I thought, wow, that is really neat. That is cool. I gotta try that. I had already dabbled in basketball and liked it, and because I don't know, maybe it was because my mom had passed, and we were kind of the three boys that my dad had. We kind of did a lot on our own, right? And then when you go into a family of 10, there's not enough time for parents to spread all of themselves around everybody. So I was always perfectly fine with being alone. And when you're alone, many times the one person you allowed in is your thoughts.
Yeah.
So I think I became a thinker back then. And one of the thoughts I always had is, how do I become better at this thing that I love, which was basketball? So I tried to take in as much as I could, because it just made, logic stated to me that if someone's gotten there, they had to have done some things to get there. So let's see what they're doing that I'm not, and then let's start doing some of those things.
Yeah, that's really good, because I got to tell you, and you don't know me that well, and there's some similarities here. Like, I'm one of 7 kids. We grew up in a 745 square foot house, 1 bathroom, and that's the way we grew up. We were poor, right? And it was what it was, and like, you didn't know you were poor. And when I found out we were poor, I was at a dime store with my mom. We're shopping. She goes to pay for it, and the lady, says, "This is what you owe," and she pulls out a little booklet of food stamps. I didn't know what food stamps were back then, right? Until that moment, I'm like, holy cow, we don't have much. And I started working when I was 11, and I just had this drive, and I played baseball. I didn't coach the NBA champion Boston Celtics, but I played a high level Division II, Division I baseball, and FAU. I went to Florida Atlantic University. I played there, and I would go out. No one told me, but I would go out every other day, because I was a little kid. I had a fundamental problem. If I was going to make it to the pros, I was 5 foot. My mom was 5'2". My dad was 5'4". So there's fundamental problem there. Now I know today there's like Altuve with the Astros. He's out there, right? But I would go out there and I would work at it every day. And nobody told me. I would go throw the ball, long toss against the wall, and I put dents in the schoolyard door across the way, and just to get better. And so it's like, I guess it's this thing that's just instilled in you that, you have this drive, and it just comes, and if you want more, you got to be more. If you want better, you got to do better. So I really appreciate you sharing that. Mm-hmm. But I want to talk to you about the book, Kevin. I mean, I told Kevin offline here that I read about 40 books a year. And if the audience doesn't know that, they do now. But anyway, I've read about 20 books in this year. And this is one of my favorite books I've read this year. And it's called, again, Why the Best Are the Best. And the subtitle is 25 Powerful Words That Impact, Inspire, and Define Champions. So you talked a little bit about why you wrote the book. I got to ask one question. The 25 words, was it an original 25 words, or did you have 30 and it dwindled down to 25? Why those 25 words?
Well, it first started off with that basic question, like, why are the best the best? So when I was, I don't know how many years I was into the NBA, I was around all these great players, and because we had done so well, and I did a lot of clinics for coaches around the country and around the world, people knew me, and therefore I had access to, the Eric Spoelsters of the world, the George Karls of the world, all the really good coaches. So I started to think back to all the people that I've been around, that I've seen what they did to become who they are. And then I had access to many others, right? So I could talk to them about why they thought they got to where they were. Anyway, as you whittle everything down, and that's not just basketball players. I had the opportunity to be around. One time I was in Miami at the Dolphins practice, and Peyton Manning and Dan Marino were there. So we had a chance to talk with them a little bit about, how they got there, right? So as you take all of these things, and then there's YouTubes, like I said earlier, and you listen to things. When someone is asked, why did you get to where you are? How did you become who you've become? What made you who you are? Why are you in the talk and the discussion of being one of the best, right? As I really studied that and went back to all of my notes over the years and everything I have read, there were certain words that popped up in almost all their answers, right? And I started out writing every word down. Words that came up, say, if I did hundreds of let's say there was hundreds of people that I researched or actually had conversations with, right? There were, I think it was 97 to start. And then I said to myself, okay, 97 is an awful long book. And one of the charges that I put on myself is to make this book, like, I don't want the reader to leave saying, wow, Kevin is this incredibly intelligent human being. I wanted them to end the book by saying, wow, he really simplified things for me. I can read it quickly. These are actionable and insertable items I can put into the way I do things, right? So like my biggest charge was trying to simplify how I wrote. And I more wanted to do it conversationally than you must do this, right? So anyway, 97 or 96, I started to see commonalities amongst words. Eventually, I whittled it down to 25, right? So that's how I got to 25. And then I just started to basically do the following. My interpretation of that word, people who are very successful at what they do, their interpretation of that word. And then in most words, I linked a story. So they knew that someone who has been successful has actually done this, right? What I like to say when I speak to, it doesn't matter, corporate or sports teams, when I use my PowerPoint and I put a word up on the screen, there will also be a picture associated with it. And that picture will depict someone who I know personally has lived this word. Because there's a difference. Like, if no one's read the book and they decide to read the book after we talk today, fantastic. But I have to say this. Most of the words they've heard, most of the words they might have read about in other books. But here's the difference. Some people have these words in their vocabulary. Those who become their best, they live these words every day. They live these words every day. They don't just have these words. And that's a huge difference. Now, does every word come up in every second of every day? No, it doesn't. But if you have your package of words, like, I have 4 that are really important to me, right? So they come up a lot in my daily things that I do. Someone else might have 7. Someone else might have 7 or 6 words that I don't even have that they think are really important to success. You've probably found this when you've done some of your talks, at least for me anyway. I can either provide information, confirmation, or stimulation when I speak. Those are the 3 things that I'm going to try and do. Information might be something new, or maybe they heard something that they've talked about with their team or their people, but it's said in a different way. So you get information. Confirmation. I know we always were curious, even with the Celtics or the Clippers, are we doing the best for our team? So when we maybe talked to Bill Belichick and we found out the New England Patriots are doing the same thing we're doing, we must be on the right track. They've won like 7 million Super Bowls, right? So we must be on the right track. We're okay here. So that's the confirmation part of it. And we all need that, right? And then the stimulation part of it is, you may not agree with all 25 words. I'm great with that. Not good, great. But if I can get you thinking about maybe you can add 4 of your own or 7 of your own, then that book it's done what I was hoping it would do, right?
Yeah.
So I can't even remember. That's a long answer to a short question that I can't even remember what the question was.
How did you start out with more than 25 words and dwindled it down? And you did. So, and go back to more similarities here. So I wrote my book 3 years ago, and this is not about me, but I just want to share this with you. My book started with 25 words, and I dwindled it down to 16. And the same thing. It was like I have the sum that matched yours: humility, passion, commitment. There are 3 words that you use, and those 3 are important to me. And you had them in your book, and I'm like, there's like information, there's a story, and then a lesson. That's the way I brought my book together.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I got chills when you said that. So thank you. And then I think you read my mind, but you didn't give the answer yet. So now I get to ask the next question. You said you have 4 of those 25 that are important to you. And I was going to ask you, what are your favorite or what are your most important words there? And could you share that?
Yeah. Well, first off, some of the words are so ingrained in me that I don't even have to think about them. I don't even have to remind myself. Like you mentioned, 2 of yours are humility and passion. And for what I do, I think I've been told anyway, the passion exudes. So I'm always going to be good on that. That's just who I am. Humility is something that it's just a part of me. So for me, the 4 words that really are important to me is the first is what I believe is the single most important word in all of success, no matter what we do. Whether we are a coach, whether we are a professional athlete, whether we are a manager, whether we are a director, whether we're a VP, whether we're a CEO. And that word is truth. Because how can we get to where we want to go if we don't know the truth about A, where we are, right? The things we're doing well, let's keep doing that. But B, the things that we're not doing quite as well, let's put a plan together to improve in those areas. So we do need the truth. And I believe if you use truth properly, it can be a competitive advantage for you in your career, you in your life, or your team or your organization or your company. But the truth needs 3 things in order for it to really be a competitive advantage. You need to be able to live it, you need to be able to tell it, and you need to be able to take it. So I want to make sure I live the truth each and every day. And simply put, that means do my actions match my words? That's all, right? Because some people speak a good game and produce at a very much lower level than they speak, right? That's why I want people to see me and my work, not so much hear about it. So we got to be able to live it. We got to be able to tell it. Look, many of us will have to have, all of us really will have to have at some point a difficult conversation with someone else. If we're in a leadership position, for sure, we'll have to have some difficult conversations, right? So we have to be able to tell it to others. And then we got to be able to take it, right? And take it sounds hard, but what I'm saying there is I can't get to where I want to go unless I know what's impeding my progress to get there. Like, I need to hear the truth. We had a player by the name of Kevin Garnett. For those who don't follow basketball, he's one of the greatest players ever to play the game. And when we traded for him, one of the first things he asked of our coaching staff was for us to tell him the truth, because he said, you won't get the player you thought you got unless you tell me the truth. Because he said, I have blind spots. And the best way to clear up the blind spots is for me to hear the truth about those blind spots. So that's the truth part of it. The second word is intentional, right? What are we doing each and every day? My definition of intentional is what you do on purpose to fulfill your purpose. And your purpose at your work is whatever role or job you've been given. So what are you doing on purpose to become your best at that particular role, at that job? Are you fulfilling the job description that your job holds, right? What are you intentional about? And I think if we really ask ourselves that question each and every day. What am I going to be intentional about today? We'll have more productive days, right? And I'm not talking about intentions. Many of us have intentions. There's a difference between intentions and intentional. Intentions are usually things that are in your mind, and you'll get to them. Intentional is not in your mind, it's front of mind, and you will do them. It's not you will get to them, you will do them, right? And these are other than the word truth, I believe truth is number one in everything. But these other ones, they could be number 2, number 4 on any given day, right? The next one is preparation, right? Because whenever you're going in front of people, you're presenting yourself. So you do want to be prepared, right? And my definition of preparation is be there before you get there, right? Be there. We joked that I showed you a blank sheet of paper and said I prepared 0 for this interview. But, yesterday and then this morning during my workout, I was thinking about, okay, what might be asked? Let me get my thoughts moved from in my mind to the front of my mind, because I want to be there before you actually ask the question, right? So that's the preparation part of it. And preparation is important because it provides confidence, which we all need, right? Especially when we're going in front of a group, and many of us have to go in front of a group at some point. Could be a group of 4, your sales team. Could be a group of 5 to 10,000 crowds we've spoken to, right? So it gives you confidence. I believe many times we feel a little bit of pressure, a little bit of angst. I believe preparation trumps pressure. I really do, right? The more prepared, the less pressure you feel. Now you always feel the butterflies. That's a good thing. That means you care. You want to provide the audience with something they can take home and utilize and insert, right? And then, I'll go from Russell Wilson when he was having the best part of his career up with the Seattle Seahawks, right, in the NFL, quarterback, for those who don't know his name. He one time said this. They was asking him, gosh, you're so small compared to other quarterbacks. You don't throw the tightest spiral from other quarterbacks. Your velocity may not be the same as other quarterbacks, but you're a great quarterback. How do you separate yourselves? And he said, my preparation is my separation. And I'll never forget that. And then the last one is standards. And whenever I think of this word, whether it be the emails I send out, the texts I send out, at the standard of the spelling is correct, hopefully, the punctuation is correct, it is efficient, right? Those are my standards, and I always say to people, think of standards this way. Think of them as your daily personal resume. Because whenever they hear us, see us, or read our work, they're forming an opinion about us, right? And it could be that they think, gosh, that guy's really good, or I'm not sure I want to work with this person.
Right.
And the standards really, we have a choice with standards. Standards are either something you are going to commit to live up to, or what you are personally consciously willing to dip down to. Your choice. What is it? Right? And I've been around the best of the best. They commit to living up to. And that's the fun part, because know why? Your standards change. And you've got to be careful, because your standards can change in a drip, drip, drip fashion. I want to stay in shape. I want to lose weight. And then, okay, Sunday I'll go to Dunkin' Donuts because only on Sunday. Well, I've dropped my standards, right? I've actually changed my habits too, right? And we think of one time. What you find out is one time becomes many one times, which becomes a lot of the time, which becomes all the time.
Yeah.
So drip, drip, drip. That's why in sports, we always say little things become big things in big moments. So let's pay attention to little things that don't go right, because that's a drip. Well, you didn't block out when they shot the ball on this possession. Oh, one time, coach. Yeah, but at the end of the game, we have 46 one times. That caused us to lose. Drip, 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 drip.
Yeah, I like to call you refer to it as drift, but to me, the word I use is drift. You drift. You drift
Yes.
away from your standards. It's the same concept, and the more you drift, the further away you get, and the harder it is to come back. So, thank you for sharing those 4 words. One word you used in the book, it wasn't your top 4, but it was humility. And so, 2 things I thought about this is, so you're working with these guys, these NBA players. Let's face it, there's a week from the grandstands, we can see some of these guys might have egos, right? And I think sometimes there's a battle of ego. And Kevin Garnett, you tell the story about how he came in and said, "Hey, this is going to be Ray Allen's team, not my team," and how he had like. I guess the question is, how did you keep egos in check? Was it hard to keep the players' egos in check? And then you yourself, you've had this success. Have you ever had to check your own ego at the door?
Well, yeah, personally, yes, I think you do, because that's why it's always good if you can figure out, like, I actually don't mind getting, thank goodness I don't get that many, but if someone says, I didn't like this about your talk, I need to know that, right? Sometimes I use, because we had the opportunity to meet President Obama, because he and Doc Rivers are friends. So I used a story about President Obama in one of the talks. And one of the emails I got after the talk is, I can't believe you brought politics into this talk. Well, the example had nothing to do with politics. So now what I say, because I learned, right, it caught me. It made me. Now I'll say, whether you agree with his politics or not, that's not important. Whether you like him or not, that's not important. Whether you can relate to him or not, that's not important. It's not whether we can relate to these people, it's can we learn from them. And now I want to tell you a story about boom. So that helped me, right? Was it a kind of a like punch? You never want to hear, I can't believe, or you're talking, right? I actually do want to hear that.
Yes.
Because the easy messages are called easy messages because they're easy to give and they're easy to take. But I think we improve by hearing the hard truths, right? So I am now, Rob, drifting from your original question. So what was it?
Keeping the ego in check. So how did you work with the egos of the NBA players? Because you have the ego and you have humility, right? You could see one being the opposite of the other, kind of. Yeah. So your thoughts there?
Well, first off, we actually wanted our players to have ego.
Right.
We wanted them to bring it every day to every game. But there's 2 types of egos. There's the winner's ego and the loser's ego. The winner's ego, well, let's take the loser's ego. That's where it's all about you. It's the number of times you get to touch the ball and shoot the ball, and the number of articles you get and the number of interviews on TV you get. That's the ego part of it. We didn't want that part. That's the loser's ego. The winner's ego is, hey, you've put a lot of work into your game. You deserve to feel confident about the level of your skills, the level of your, we call it teamness, your ability to interact and become a teammate, right? So bring that ego each and every day. You know what I found about the best players? They were so curious.
Yeah.
They had the most questions. Kobe was fanatical about it. He would cold call people not in sports to find out, what did you do to become who you are? The singer Michael Jackson, right? He used to talk about Michael Jackson and how Kobe would say, gosh, he seems to be so fanatical about his footwork and what he does in his concerts and all that. He wanted to find out how did he think? So Phil Jackson, his coach, said, call him. Kobe, he'll take your call. Call him. So then he cold called leaders, Ariana Huffington, he cold called her, Warren Buffett, he cold called him. Of course, they're going to take Kobe's call, right?
Yeah, exactly.
That's not the point. The point is that he wanted to learn. See, what I found is there's a misconception out there. The best players are really the most curious. Kevin Garnett had a lot of questions, right, about how to get better. All they want to know is maybe one other thing that can help them make one little move upward in their careers, right? So where the egos come in are not players 1 through 5. It's usually players 8 through 15 on your team because they think they should be getting more playing time and more. And what I used to say to them is, you want more playing time? Prove your value to Doc Rivers. Get him to the point where he would be stupid not to play you. And I would have an honest conversation with the player. Right now, he's smart. He's playing those other 5 guys. Let's say you're one of our players. Rob, he's actually smart. You think he's dumb because he's not playing you? Rob, he is actually smart.
Yeah.
Playing those other 5. Here's why. Boom, 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 boom. Now, let me tell you, if you want to hear it, I'll tell you why I think he's not playing you, but I don't think you want to hear it. Whenever I said that, yeah, tell me.
Yeah.
Tell me. It's like fishing. You try and bring them in. And different like I often get asked, how would you work with this employee we have here? And I don't know until I'm in front of them and get to know them a little bit, right? Because what you find in those types of things is the stronger the relationship, the harder the conversation can be.
Ooh.
Where those conversations are really hard is when you don't really know anything about that person.
That's great. That's great. So coming from a place of curiosity, I know we only have a few minutes left here, but coming from a place of curiosity, that's a form of humility too, because it says, hey, I want to learn more. Would you agree with that?
Oh, there's no doubt. No doubt. I think humility and curiosity have 2 common ingredients, and that you're open and willing to learn. But what that is really saying, it's deeper than that. If you are open and willing to learn, that usually means that you have done some self-reflection and come to the point at which you say to yourself, I don't know something about this. And the only thing I just feel I have to have a drive to know what I'm supposed to know that I don't know yet.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So, like right now, I have one of my projects today this is just part of a small file of, I call them mini notes.
I see it's your blue folder, by the way. You talked about your blue folder in the book.
I don't even know what this says. Pay close attention to those who care about you. Right. So I didn't have anything to write on, and I'm not a big in my phone person. So I just kind of put it on a piece of paper. Well, I keep those. So now today I'm going through with my red pen, and I will put it into, there are only certain categories I'm concerning myself with in where I am in life now. And it's not pick and roll defense, pick and roll offense, shooting mechanics, defensive stance. I used to have those files, right? Now I have files simply on the things I speak on. So anytime I have a thought that's a mini note, I throw it into one of these files. And now what I have to do is categorize those. I have them: success, leadership, culture, teamwork. They're my 4 main categories.
Can you say that again?
Well, these are what I speak on. So success, culture, teamwork, and I'm drawing a blank now. So the other one that I said earlier that you didn't pick up.
They'll hear it. They'll hear it. It's all good. It's all good.
Yeah. So now people are really seeing my mind kind of moves. So I always get on to the next thing.
It's all good, man. This is all authentic. It's genuine, authentic.
People will say, Kevin, on page 74 of your book, what were you talking about? I have no idea what I was talking about on page 74. Now, if you tell me and ask me a question about what's on page 74, boom, I'll be able to. Right?
There you go. There you go. That's great stuff. So before I let you go, 2 questions for you. Number 1, how has God played a role?
Oh, leadership.
Leadership. Okay, there you go. Leadership was the 4th one. So my final 2 questions: how has God played a role in this? And this, like, could you ever see? Did you, as a 15-year-old, did you see yourself as an NBA championship coach? So how's God played a role in that? And how much more chiseling do you got going on in your life in the future here?
Well, chisel in 2 areas. If I stood up, you would say I have a lot of chiseling to do on my 6-pack. It is now a negative 2-pack. Sometimes I'll say in talks, like, when I talk about this word intentional, I work out every day. Now, please don't use this as proof of whether I actually work out every day, but trust me, I do. Right. But the 2 questions, automatic yes.
Yeah.
I'm nowhere near a finished product. I still don't know just yet some things I don't know. They'll pop into my life at some point where I got to learn about those.
Right.
But right now I'm trying to simplify things. The first 2/3 of my life were probably take in as much as I can, right? Knowledge accumulation. But now I'm more about knowledge application, right? Because sometimes I think we've been told in all of our books that we should read more, we should input more. I actually now I'm doing some of the opposite, where I won't even go near a book. I won't even look up towards. You can see above me is one portion of my my bookcase. The other part is on the other side of the room, but won't even look at a book. I'm just going to be alone with my thoughts, because what good is it if I just read books to write something down to put in a file that I'll never use?
Mm-hmm.
I call it you either memorize or internalize. When you can use it the best is when you internalize things. Like, people can listen to this and they'll say, okay, the truth needs 3 things: live it, tell it, take it. But that's all they know. They haven't thought deeper about what that means to them. So what I'm trying to do every now and then, and sometimes I'll go a week with this no reading, no nothing. And I'll just think about some things that are important and popping into my head at that time. So yes, I'm always trying to chisel and get better. In terms of the spiritual part, I do believe there's someone there. It can't be all luck, is what I believe. Some opportunities have been put in front of me. Now, I'm real good at seeing them and in working hard to making them come to fruition, right? But I know it all can't be luck and hard work, right? Do I openly push what I believe on other people? No. My basic belief is be a good person. And when there's a decision between right and wrong, do right as best you can. So kind of that's where I am with the spiritual and religious side of my life. I'll read books, whether it be a Mark Batterson book or Tony Dungy, who's was a really good football coach who's very spiritual. And just to kind of keep my mind in that realm.
Yeah, good stuff. Hey, Kevin, I could talk to you all day. Could ask you a zillion more questions, but I know we got to keep it simple because we like the simplified life, right? That's where we want to be right now. So, Kevin, if anybody need to get a hold of you, have you speak in front of their company or their teams or whatnot, would you like people to have access to get a hold of you?
Well, sure. I mean, if anyone might be interested, our website is Kevin Eastman, EASTMAN.net. And there is obviously a link where you can go to speaking, and should you be interested, that's the best way. We get back to people very quickly. So I guess that would be that. Some other things that people are curious about. As you can see, a lot of times I do talk in bullets and quick hitters. So on my Twitter account, I do these types of things. I haven't been on Twitter as much anymore because I was trying to wait to see where this whole Twitter thing was going. Mm-hmm. But there's probably already over 2,500 quick hit bullet points about success, leadership, upward mobility. My wife in the back of the screen just coming out of the pool from swimming. So disregard that part of it. Concentrate on this guy here. Right. So you're getting the Eastman household right now. If she heard me, she'd probably be saying, "Oh, stop doing that, would you?"
That's great. That's great. But I appreciate that, Kevin. Again, I am so grateful and appreciative of your time today. And like I said, this is one of my favorite books I've read this year. I bought a case of them. I gave it to my team. We're going to go through it with maybe 2 or 3 chapters at a time. Maybe I should say 2 or 3 words at a time. And I'm moved by it. I'm inspired by you. I'm inspired by this book. It just makes me want to be better as well. So I thank you for your time today, Kevin.
Yeah, my pleasure. And if you happen to come up with ways that you guys are going to use the words, I'd love to see them. I'm always curious as to how people utilize the words or what it means to them.
Oh, I'd love to do that. I'll stay in touch with you for sure.
Yeah.
I love that. Thank you for allow me to be able to do that. And so you've been great, man. Thank you so much.
Thanks. See you
And
guys.
so until next time, everybody, let's go get chiseled.